Okay, so this is DE471 Data Analytics and Business Intelligence. So we will meet each other every Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. until 4 something p.m. So it's an online course. Therefore, every time we will have a Zoom meeting to be recorded, and then I will put those recordings to YouTube every week. So we have TA, our TA, P. Natakamon, she's also in the Zoom. Uh, she'll be TA for this course and also the same course for CS department in the morning. So if you have any questions about like quiz, actually we will use gradebooks in Moodle so you can look at your grade for your own on the Moodle directly. The quiz will be auto-graded, the homework, and also the lab. Okay, we will talk about the cost logistic later on. Everyone should uh, add the line open chat. We have the QR code here. Okay, so let's take a look at what we are covering today. Okay. We'll talk about why we are here, which is the value of the data. I believe you have learned data science course before, right? Machine learning course. Okay. We'll talk about what is the data analytics, and if you want to apply data analytics to your uh, business decision, how do we process from the beginning? So we have the data analytics framework, yeah. And the first step in the framework is called define and ask. So we will talk about define and ask today. Then once you know the whole concept of the course, we will talk about the goal of the course and the logistics of the course. Then before we finish this class today, we will talk about the actual theory, which is getting to know your data later on. So let's first talk about the growth of the data. So let's look at this landscape. This is the graph from the Statistica 2024, which is the current usage, the past history usage, and the predicted future usage of the data. So when you look at the graph, the first thing that you need to know is what is the x-axis, what is the y-axis. Where is my pen? Okay. So what is the x-axis? X-axis is year, right? So this is year. The y-axis is the data volume in zettabytes. So right now we're in 2026, it's just the first week of the 2026. So we could talk about 2025 instead, but that means in 2025 we were predicted to use 182 zettabytes of data. How large is this? Do you know how large is the zettabytes? 10 to the power of what? 10 to, anyone know? Zettabytes? 10 to the power of how many? 10 กำลังอะไรคะ zettabytes? Zettabytes 10 กำลังอะไรเอ่ย Anyone? So gigabyte is 10 to the power of 9, right? Zettabyte is trillion gigabyte, million of million gigabyte. That means zettabyte is 10 to the power of, yes, 21. You are right. Yeah. Zettabyte is 10 to the power of 21. So That means at the end of 2025, we were expected to use 182 zettabyte times 10 to the power of 21. So 4 gig, 16 gig is already a big number, right? This is trillion of that. Okay. We were expected to grow exponentially. So you look at the shape of the graph, like it's like this, it's not like this, right? So this is linear, right? So this is exponential. That means it's grow faster than linear. And this is the usage, not the storage. So you need to know the difference between usage and storage. Usage means maybe it's streamed from the streaming, or it's sensed by the sensor, but that data may not be stored somewhere like in the database or whatever. For example, if you sense something, right? You have a sensor like a PM2.5 sensor. It senses every second, but actually you don't store every second of PM2.5 data. If you are pollution control department, you only store like I think 5 minutes data, or minutes of data, or even hour of data to process. So you don't keep it, all of data that are used are not kept in the storage. So this is the difference between data usage and data storage. This data is so-called data usage, right? So the name of this graph is global data usage over time with projections. Okay, so no matter it's usage or storage, it's really a big or a huge number of data that we consume every day. So when we consume data, we need to make it as useful for the organization. So how can we make it useful? We need to use algorithms. We need to use the fields of data analytics and the data science. So let's look at example. The first example is from the supermarket, just like Big C, Top, something like this, right? Big superstore. This is from Walmart. So in Walmart in the USA, they use the predictive technology in the sense of predicting what people will come to buy before the hurricane happens. So in the USA, a hurricane is a big thing, right? People need to try to find shelter or somewhere to hide so that they do not destroy their own life or their properties. So before the hiding, you need to buy something, right, to store. Like maybe if in Thailand you buy like rice, right? You buy tissues, you buy water. But if the data just tell you that you need to buy the water, rice, it's not surprise at all. So why use it? You just use common sense. So what we need from data is we need to find the unexpected things. So in this case for Walmart, what they found is that before the hurricane, they used the past hurricane data. Before the hurricane in 2004, they found a pattern that uh, people come and buy certain products more than they used to buy in normal life. Those two products are beer. Beer is very common in the case of COVID. If you remember COVID, right? Before the COVID lockdown, there were like news like alcohol were sold out in most of the superstores in Thailand. The same in Walmart, they sold beer. People come to buy beer. Another thing is strawberry pop tarts, the things like that, like this, strawberry pop tarts, things that can eat without needing of the cooking. So they claim that strawberry Pop Tart sales rises 7 times more than in usual circumstances. So this is the pattern that tells Walmart that okay, before the hurricane, what they need to stock, they need to stock these two things because these two things, sales revenue goes up high. Okay, so this is the first example of using the value of the data. Another one is from Nordstrom. Nordstrom is also a department store, but they focused on selling clothing or things uh, close to clothing like comb, like socks, shoes, something like that. Okay, so they right now they operate two channels, right? Brick and mortar, which means offline, right? Offline on site. Brick and mortar mean on site, right? So the real store. This is offline, right? And the online business. Okay, so the question is how can they manage the inventory of both channels? Because the signals of selling online and selling in store or offline are probably different. And even if this sales offline or online, there are some location difference because in the US they, they they are huge, right? Maybe if you are in just like me when we were in Michigan, uh, the clothes needs to be like in this case, like January is very cold, so it has to be like coat or like some down jacket, something like that. But if you are in Texas, you don't need that kind of clothes because it's not that cold, right? So there are some difference in location also. So it's difficult to manage the product inventory. So what Nordstorms use is they use the forecasting demand to add many level of granularity. That means whether it's which channel and whether it's come to from where, the location. Okay. So what they talk about in their report is about the broken inventory. What is broken inventory? Broken inventory is where products that usually in the normal product life cycle when products sales, right? Uh, some size as were selling better than some other sizes. For example, shoes, right? Shoes. People are usually like, if it's woman, right? Maybe 6, 7, 8. But if it's like small size, like 5 or 4, or big size, large size, like 10 or 11, it's difficult to sell, right? So it will become part of the broken inventory because if it's difficult to sell, it will make it how do they sell this product? They need to mark down, right? Mark down means discount. So when it's discount, what happens to them? They lose profit, right? They lose profit when you discount your product. So how do you prevent broken inventory to be marked down or to be what is called high risk inventory? They need to use the things called personalization because if it's online, right, they know this, or if it's not online but offline, they know this is loyalty of customer. This person actually buy which size, right? So they can personalize those broken inventory and then give maybe just normal, not much discount to that person who may be able to buy that size that lack people to buy, right? So this is what Nordstorm use to manage their inventory and then forecast the demand on particular size, particular clothing, and particular sort of things that they sell online and offline. The third example is from Japanese supermarket, and also some Thai supermarket also use this strategy because in Japanese convenience store, right? They sell food, and the food products comes with things that uh, people may not want to see, which is the waste of the food. When food expire, you need to just dump it away, right? You cannot sell anymore. So this is the challenge for supermarket like this that sells fresh foods. So what do? They try to discount again. It has to discount. Let's say like when it's like 8 p.m. So let's discount sushi because otherwise sushi will not be sold out and then you need to just dump it away anyway. So what Japanese supermarket use is to use AI to optimize the discount. So why do they need to optimize the discount? Because they need higher profit and they need to lower the number of waste that they need to dump. Therefore, what they use is they use the data from the real-time sales of that day, from the past sales, and also use the stocks, use the product's expiration date, use the weather, whether it's raining today. So if it's raining, people will not come to the store. Use the real-time customer counts that come to the store that day. So everything in the data set helps them to optimize at what time they should discount how much. Let's say 7 p.m. they just discount 5%. If it's 8 p.m., okay, 10%. If it's like 9 p.m. already, oh, they need to discount into 20%. And this is the result that they get to have the sticker, okay, they put on the product to be the discount, like the yellow discount here in the picture. So this is the result of using AI, okay, to optimize and then to get higher profit and to reduce the waste at the same time. Another example is from fraud prevention from PayPal. You know PayPal, right? So PayPal use data to prevent the fraud in different levels. So they analyze data at transaction level and try to use like the predictive machine learning technology to try to flag which transaction may be fraud. Also in account level, they also try to investigate and see the pattern of each account, whether they have the abusive behavior, try to see whether this person might be the mule or the บัญชีม้า like that account. So let's we will talk about this later because you need to do a project that is similar to what PayPal did also. Okay, another level is called network level. So they monitor the interaction between account to account, try to see whether there are some uh, in abnormal pattern between the location server of this, because PayPal is very international, right? Of Thailand or the US, anything that's not normal. So they also monitor this network level. Okay. Also, there are many business use case from many industry, right? Like the e-commerce and retail that we have talked before. Other than the inventory or the demand forecasting, they also talk about how retail and e-commerce use something like customer segmentation to segment the customer. They know which customer love which products, so they can sell or upsell or do some promotion for the particular customer. They also do like product review analysis, look at the recommendation, look at the comments of the product. Also, they can also do some research and development of their own products. In banking, of course, it's the leading industry to use the data to get some valuable things like in risk management, in credit scoring, or even fraud detection, just like PayPal. When you call banking, you don't find people, right? You find AI, that is automated customer support. Also in telecommunication, or a telecommunication like AIS or True. The most classic use case of data in telecom is the churn prediction, which is how do they predict whether this uh, customer try to cancel that contract and then go to use another telecommunication company instead. They also use data to try to predict the network traffic, to try to find the location to their site, to put the site if there are many people using their service at that place. So these are common use case in these leading three business industry. Also in medical, you can see a lot of things that patients come to the hospital and doctor use AI to try to look at maybe X-ray picture or image. And also in the research industry, in the medical care, they try to come up with new drug that can be discovered from the information of the patients or the information of the symptoms of the patients. There also, in the case of COVID, we have virtual assistant to help instead of having the real doctor, right? In manufacturing, we have supply chain optimization. We also have demand forecasting and inventory management. They also use robotics, like a smart pack factory thing. And in the factory, they have machine, right? Therefore, they need to have preventive maintenance, how to prevent before it's actually broken. In transportation, we have like logistic planning, we have self-driving cars, just like in Tesla or in drone, right? We also have, like in the airport, they need to manage the traffic in the airport. In the case of when it's like high season, there are a lot of airplanes that come to that airport. So how do they manage that? They use the past data also. Okay, these are all the like leading use case that we have seen across all the industry, even in Thailand or even in global case. So now you see the use cases. Then let's come to define what is data analytics. Okay, so I used two of the examples here. So the first one is from Cognos Analytics. It's the section of the analytics products from IBM. So Mr. Kevin McFall says that data analytics is the collecting, cleansing, analyzing, presenting, and sharing of the data and the analysis to be able to help communicate what's going on within your business and what's going on in the data so it can lead to make better decisions. So what is the business outcome? It's the better decision for the business ก็คือ collect ใช่ไหมรวบรวมนะ clean ทำความสะอาด analyze วิเคราะห์ present ก็คือ present แล้วก็ share data แล้วก็การวิเคราะห์ด้วยนะ Another definition from SAP data analytics is how organization turn raw data into business value so แปลงข้อมูลดิบใช่ไหมให้กลายเป็น business value how to turn raw data into business value by analyzing data, right? It could be large data set, it could be smaller data set, it's okay. Organization will uncover pattern that yield things called insights to again inform decision making and lead to business outcome. So you can see that both definition focus on better decisions. Better decision comes with better business outcomes. This is what they want. Okay. Now, what's the difference between data analytics and data analysis? Actually, data analysis and analytics. Analysis is the subset of the analytics. The analytics is a field, a very broad field of using data and tools to make business decisions. but analysis is the process, the specific process. So data analysis, the definition is to process of gathering, cleaning, analyzing, and mining data, interpreting result, and reporting the findings. ก็คือ analysis เนาะเราเวลาเราเห็นภาษาอังกฤษเราต้องอ่านให้ถูกไม่งั้นถ้าอ่านไม่ถูกมันก็จะดูแบบเฮ้ยจบ data engineer จริงหรือเปล่า analytics คือศาสตร์ analytics is a field analysis นะ sys เนี่ยมันคือคำเหมือนกับเป็นคำนามที่แปลงมาจาก verb อีกทีหนึ่งใช่ไหม analyze analysis นะคะมันก็เป็น subset ของศาสตร์ที่ชื่อว่า analytics อีกทีหนึ่งโอเคแล้วคนที่ใช้ data analytics ใช้ data analysis ก็เรียกว่า data analyst อันนี้ถ้าเจอตัวนี้อ่านว่า analyst analyst is a role is a person who use data and the data tools to get business outcome from the data. Okay, so you learn there is data science before that is called data scientist. So actually, data scientist is can do more than data analyst, but actually it's quite blur. Okay, you can see that in many organizations, data scientists and data analysts are not actually different. Maybe data analysts can do programming and can write Python, can write machine learning program, and they can do things that data scientists can do. Data scientists in some organization may not actually do machine learning. They may just use them to do the report, do the dashboard. So they actually do the role of data analyst. Okay, so you need to look at the job description before you start to know, oh, this is actually the real data scientist or this is actually just data analyst. Okay, so this is the environment that you will work in the data. I know you are a data engineer, so you have already put these things on your course lecture before, right? We have a lot of data source. We have data platform. You do ETL, ELT, and whatever batch processing to put your data in the data source into server like a data warehouse platform or the data analytics platform or big data platform, right? So it's like a storage for you. And then there are data consumers. So in this case, for this course, we will talk about actually data source. And then from the data source, we will bypass the data platforms. And then we will talk about how to consume those data and how to use that to make some business insights or business value. Okay, now responsibilities of the data analyst includes inspecting, cleaning data to derive insights, to identify correlation, to find some patterns from the data, or maybe you can apply statistical methods to analyze and mine some data. You also need to be able to visualize data, to interpret, and to present the findings of the data analysis. These are some questions that you may need to ask as a data analyst. For example, if you work for Google search, you may ask about, oh, whether the user search experience are good or bad with the search functionality in your site, or what is the perception of the people that see your rebranding initiatives. For example, you are in the marketing section of the maybe like some supermarket like this. Is there a correlation between sales of one product and another? If people buy milk, do they buy bread together? Something like that. This is the question that may arise if you are a data analyst in the department store. The skills requirement for the data analyst, including, of course, the knowledge of spreadsheet that we'll use Excel, and then writing queries, we will bypass the query things. SQL, I assume you already learned from part of your course lectures before, like database management system, and also using statistical tools to create charts and also dashboards. You also need to, right now, for the data analyst, they may require you to have programming skill, because other than things like writing Python, you may be able to write M code for Power Query or macro for Google Sheet, or maybe App Sheet, or uh, Excel, right? And of course, you are a data analyst. You need to have strong analytical skill and strong storytelling skills. Okay, so we will have a model when we want to use data. When any organization need to use data, they try to first use with things that are easy to come up with, right? So, and that thing is called how difficult it is, from the the least difficult, easy one, to the difficult one, right? So the x-axis is difficulty. The y-axis is if it gets difficult, of course it gets more value. Okay, so first thing that people might come up with is try to answer what happened. That means what is the history? What happened in the history? History means hindsight, right? Things that already happened before. So if you try to or be able to answer things like what happened, like for example, if you are a store in Florida, you know, oh, we got the lowest revenue from Florida, but we got highest revenue from California in the past year. This is descriptive analytics. Okay. So what happened, ED? For diagnostic analytics, we ask further. So just know what happened is not enough. I want to know why. Why Florida revenue is the lowest? Oh, because there are hurricanes during July or during the middle of the year in Florida. That's why the revenue at that time is stagnant. It doesn't grow, right? This is why. Why did it happen? So this is called, if you can answer this is called diagnostic analytics. Just like when you go to the doctor diagnose you whether you are itchy, right? And the doctor diagnose that, oh, you are affected, right, by something. Okay, so diagnostic analytics try to answer why did it happen. So we need to use like some more statistical or correlation analysis, so multivariable analysis, to know or to come up with why. If you do further, right, for why you get some insight already, but if you do further, you try to predict in the future, right? This is called predictive analytics. Let's say, oh, then what about next year? What will be the revenue from Florida? Because next year it should be like La Nina. There should not be any hurricane anymore. So we expect that Florida revenue will be normal, just like the past few years before. So this is what will happen. This is called predictive analytics. So how do we use predictive analytics? We need to use machine learning, right? The fourth maturity, which is the most difficult one, is called prescriptive analytics. Prescribe, just like when you go to doctor, doctor say, oh, you are affected by some bacteria, something like that. You need to get some medicine. This is prescribe, right? Prescribe ให้ยา So how can we make it happen? This is prescriptive analytics. We see the foresight, what will happen, and then we try to fix that, right? So this is prescriptive analytics. Like if we say, okay, so the revenue of Florida will come up again, then we need to do what? We need to stock more so that we can sell more things to customers, and then our revenue will improve, and improve how much? This is prescriptive analytics, which use optimization techniques to come up with how do we do with that. Okay, it's the 4 layers of data analytics maturity model. For an organization, they may start at the beginning from descriptive, but it's not sure, right? It depends on that organization. Some organization is good enough to go just right away to predictive analytics. But there is also the fifth type of analytics. This is called cognitive, right? Cognition involves how do we use computer, or actually right now it's AI, to try to come up with something that is human-like, right? Using NLP, natural language processing, using LLM, large language model, using machine learning, using computer vision, using reasoning, using human interaction, anything that are not human to try to be a human. So this is called cognitive analytics. So after we get cognitive analytics, what we expect is that we can do things that human cannot touch, but the machine can touch. Okay. So let's see example of using and asking questions in this 4 layer of maturity model. We don't have the fifth one. Okay. So our example is about lowering electricity consumption. The business, the big problem is that how do we reduce electricity consumption in the factory or at the school? Okay, if we come up with some descriptive or the agnostic question, we may ask, okay, so does the meter reading มิเตอร์ใช่ไหมmeter ไฟ electricity meter reading for each building differ from month to month? In which month it is low, in which month it is high? For example, during April, which is quite hot, we may use a lot of air condition, so it's high, right? Do the usage patterns of each building different time maybe follow some trends or some change in temperature? That is kind of know why. Maybe because of the temperature. Is it actually the temperature, or is it related to how the semester begins and ends? Okay, so this is like we try to diagnose why we use a lot, why we use some low electricity consumption. If we try to ask, okay, so can we predict in advance whether electricity in this building will be used at this time of the day and will not be used at this time of the day? Can we predict that? Okay, this is predictive questions. Or which type of building or which time periods that we tend to consume large amount of electricity. This is the predictive question. Okay. For prescriptive question, we may try to ask whether, okay, if we can predict that, what actions that we need to take to reduce the energy usage, or in which location that the reduction of the energy usage have the greatest impact, so we can focus on that building or on that condition. How would adjusting the usage affect the business operation? If we try to come up with, like, say, okay, Department of Biology use a lot of freezing condition, right, to freeze the bio things of the lab things. So if we do not use that, will there be effect on the department operations? Of course, yes, right? So this is example of how do we apply the different type of maturity to ask different things. And if we can answer these things, we can get some values for the organization. Okay, so let's see. If we try to solve these problems, these questions, how do we do that? We use the cycle of the analysis, which we call it a framework. So we try to come up with the first one, the first step of the framework is called define and ask. So we define the business problem first. We try to come up with asking the right question. And from asking the right question, we know the problem, right? We know which data we need to get to try to solve, because this is the data analytics framework. So we need to use the data, right? Once we get the data, we acquire that, we gather, we explore the data, we clean the data if it's not cleansed, and then we prepare the data. Maybe we try to come up with another column of the data, another attributes, whatever. This is the second step, right? The first step is the analyze and interpret. So we try to like come up with the structure, maybe like good rows and columns. We try to come up with like maybe pivot tables. We try to use graph to visualize. We use that to analyze data to find some patterns from the graph or from the pivot tables. We generated insights from the graph. And then we cannot keep that on our own. So if you want to get the business value, we need to communicate the results. So this is the fourth one. You need to communicate and act. You need to make, as an analysis, as an analyst, you need to make recommendation so that that recommendation can be translated into action for the organization later on. Okay. So this process is actually not just one pass. It's actually an iterative process. That means it can go. And once you are done with communicate and act, it goes along. Maybe you ask more questions, you gather more data, you analyze more data, and you get more actions. You can do like this iteratively. Or actually, we don't put arrows on this, we can go back. For example, if we analyze and then, oh, this data doesn't actually answer our problem, we may go back and then acquire another new data. Or maybe if we acquire data, oh, data is not clean, it can be cleansed. So we need to maybe change the problem. We can go back to define and ask. So something like this happen all the time. Okay, from start to finish, and then it goes along. You may have listen to the keywords findings and insights. So what's different between findings and insights? There are crucial distinction here. Findings are facts. Findings are facts. So findings just describe the facts, describe what happened, describe what you found, describe patterns in the data or the summaries, but they don't have the background knowledge. They don't have the research to support the findings. They don't know the factors behind the organization. They are just facts. The data analyst needs to translate findings into insights. For insights, we need to focus on explanation of the opportunities or business context of that findings. For example, you are a platform, and then in your platform, you have asked user to come and then register on your platform, right? So when user create an account on your platform, you found that most users use not real name, use maybe initials just like Nuvi, they use NW, or they use nickname for their name in the platform. This is what you found, right? This is the findings. But after your findings, you need to come up with why, with the background knowledge, why they do that. That's because they value their privacy. And this is why they don't use their real full name. They use nickname or they use initials instead of their real full name, because they are very beware. They are beware of the privacy that may be used illegally when you register in your platform. Okay, so this is the insight. And then once you know the insight, you may come up with, if you want to know the real name, so you can use that later on. You need to come up with maybe promotion if you use real name, or maybe some PDPA disclaimer that we are good platform, is not a move platform or any illegal things. They should be okay to use their real name in your platform, something like this. Okay, so let's look at the first step in the data analytics process, which is how to define and ask. Okay, Charles Kettering says that a problem well defined is a problem half solved, right? So problem เห็นไหมปัญหาเนี่ยจะดีที่สุดก็คือเมื่อมันเป็นปัญหาที่ solve มาได้ครึ่งหนึ่งแล้วนะแสดงว่าการตั้งปัญหาเนี่ยมันเป็นสิ่งที่สำคัญมากนะคะ so how do we do that I have some frameworks for you the first step is to first define the objective. Okay, so the objective or the goal or the what, this is just high level goal. For example, you want to increase customer revenue, you want to increase customer retention to come and buy again. So to be able to come up with a good business objective or business goal, we should use SMART framework: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. We'll talk about that later on the later slide. So if you use SMART framework, your objective will be more concrete, and then this objective will have precise setting, and it will be used later to ensure that everyone has a shared understanding and works toward the same goal, the same target. Okay, so what is SMART? SMART, S-M-A-R-T. S from specific. Specific means goal should be clear, no ambiguity in the goal. Everyone should be on the same direction with the well-defined focus. Okay, we want to focus on what? We want to focus on revenue. We want to focus on profit. We want to focus on recruitment, something like that. We want to focus on grade, like this. It is the specific things. The second, M is measurable. So the goals need to be measurable. What does it mean? It means that we need to have some numbers in there, right? Because numbers can be measured, whether we success or not success. And also we can also track the progress. Let's say we want 5% of revenue. Okay, right now we can get only 2%. So it's 3% more, something like this, right? We can track the progress. We can compare. A comes from, it could be achievable or attainable. So goals should be realistic and attainable within what? Within the resources that we have. In this case, maybe data resource, whether we can acquire those data to solve the problems. This is achievable or attainable. So is there any obstacles that might arrive during our project? Okay, so this will be considered as one main challenge in the achievable things. The fourth one is relevant. Relevant. Goals must be relevant to what? Not just for fun, right? It's for the broader objectives of the business or the organization, which is KPI, or maybe the mission, or maybe the strategies, right? So our goal or our objective needs to be aligned with the business strategy. The last one is T. T is time bound, means that this goal or objective should have specific time frame for the completion, so that we know whether we can track the progress by what, by when do we need to expect to achieve this goal, right? We need to have the time frame. We know whether it's urgent or not, or what action. If it's urgent, we do this. If it's not urgent, we do something like that. So this is also very important also for the objectives. So let's see the example here. Smart, S-M-A-R-T. For example, if we are in sales department, we may come up with a SMART goal says, okay, we want to increase quarterly, quarterly sales revenue by how much? 15%. Okay, measure. 15% measurable. It's very specific. We need just sales revenue. Which type sale? Quarterly sales, not just any sales, right? And it should be done over the next 3 months, right? So we have time bound the next 3 months or the next quarter. How? Through targeted marketing campaigns and upselling strategies. So this is make it more attainable, more relevant, and maybe more specific. Okay. If we are not in sales department, let's say we are in marketing department. Okay. So let's say we come up with, okay, if we are in marketing department, we want to do this. We want to expand to two, right? Two new regional markets. Let's say Isan and Northern region. Before that, we only do Bangkok and vicinity. Let's do two more regions. So within the next 12 months, time bound by how we do that? Do market research and do some local partnerships. So specific, measure. If we do two, right? Two is the things that we measure. Achievable, relevant, and then time bound. Okay, let's say we're not in sales, we're not in marketing. Let's say we were in manufacturing. We want to come up with team productivity to increase team productivity by 20% in the next quarter, right? By implementing weekly check-ins and productivity tracking tools. So this is more specific, right? How to attain that? To be specific, use this and this strategy. If we are in HR, what should be our goal, be our SMART goal? Okay, if I'm an HR, human resource, right? I need to order all the people in the organization to complete an advanced online course in the data analysis within the next 3 months. For what? To improve job performance and support career advancement. Okay, this is for HR, right? HR need to have this, right? People, so they need to come up with plan and how to order people to come up with online course for themselves. Okay, so this is many examples of the SMART objective or goals. We will try to do SMART objective using AI later on. Okay, so once you get the objective are just the outcome that we want. But you don't see how do we use data analytics to accomplish this outcome. First, you need to map this outcome or objective to be questions. So in this case, it's business questions. So we need to know and understand how to achieve that outcome using these questions if we can answer this question, right? So think about this. If we have business question and then we can answer this question, the business will know how to accomplish and get the business outcome that we set out in the objective. So how can we come up with business question? We ask using 5W and 1H. So this is the 5W and 1H from Kaizen, Japanese psychology, right? So what is 5W? 5W, who? Who is it? Who is doing it? Who should be doing it? Who else? Who are the stakeholder? Who are our customer? Right? Who? What to do? What is being done? What should be done? What else can we do? What is it about? Okay? What problem it is? Where? Where do we do it? Where is it done? which location, right? It's about where. When to do it, when is it done, when should be done, right? Why we do it? Why do it at that place? Why not this place? Why we do with the customer like this? Why we don't do that like that? Right, why? And how? How do we do that? How to do it? How is it done? And maybe how and how much? How much is it? How much does it cost to do these things? บางทีเขาจะบอก 2H เนาะ 1H or 2H นะคะ so once we get business questions, the next step 3 is to identify key metrics and KPIs, and then from the key metrics and KPI we can come up with the data need. Okay, so what is key metric and KPI? It must be things that tie to business outcome. It should be quantifiable and also actionable. So what's different between metrics and KPI? All KPIs are metrics, but not all metrics are KPIs. For example, let's say you have business question. Let's say you sell furniture and you say, okay, my question is furniture. How much it is lost? How much we lost in furniture selling? So the metrics that are related to this question are what? Category furniture, right? Total profit, profit margin, or maybe quarterly profit change. So these are key metrics. But from these key metrics, maybe only profit margin and profit change quarterly is the KPI. Right? Not all of the metrics are KPI. So once we get metrics and KPIs, we know, okay, we need which data? We need category data. So we know this is furniture, this is not furniture, right? We may need to know the subcategory of the furniture, maybe like tables, chairs, something like this. We may need to know sales. We need to calculate total profit. So we need to know profit. We need to calculate quarterly profit change. So we need to have date. So we need to have order date. Right? These are the data that we need. If we come up with business question that say, okay, this cow is the reason of the loss. So what are the key metrics? We need to know average discounts. We need to know the profit margin by discount band. So if discount 10%, we lost how much, right? We need to know the correlation between profit versus discount. So that's, we know why, whether discount is the reason for the loss. So data needs include discounts, sales, profit, and maybe quantity that we need to know, right? So these are examples of how once we get business question, we try to map out the key metrics and KPI from the business question, and then we know the data that we need. Okay, so metrics are like measurements, right? เป็นการวัดใช่ไหม metrics คือเป็นตัวเลขอะ อยากจะวัดนี่ but not all metrics are KPI. So KPI comes from key performance indicator. So key performance indicator KPI are specific metrics that are tied to business objectives. They are critical metrics ละกัน ก็คือคุณเป็นเมทริกอาจจะเป็นอะไรหลายอย่างเป็นตัวเลขนู่นนี่นั่นเป็นหมดแต่ว่าเอาเมทริกที่สำคัญเขามักจะเอาเมทริกที่สำคัญเอามาทำเป็น KPI ไหมอย่างเช่นเหมือนถ้าเป็นครูอย่างเงี้ยก็จำนวนนักศึกษานู่นนี่นั่นแต่พวกนี้อาจจะไม่ใช่ KPI ของครู KPI ของครูอาจจะเป็นคะแนนไม่ใช่ KPI ของครูอาจจะเป็นเรทของการจบการศึกษาอย่างเงี้ยประมาณนี้เป็นต้นนะคะ Okay, so we will have one tool that we will use throughout your project, which is the group project, the project canvas. So this is your roadmap to success. It will be structure framework to help you organize and plan your data project systematically. So let's use this case study throughout the course. We'll use Superstore. So superstore is a store like office mate that sells like furniture, copy machine, stationery, uh, papers, things like that. So let's say we have a team that sells things in superstore that we have branches all over the country. And then, oh, we are good. Our sales team prospect are very good. We have the uptrend in the sales revenue, but the problem is the selling of furniture has lost profit in the last quarter. So this is our problem. So what do we need to do? We need to use data to help us. So we need to define smart adjective. We need to form smart adjective. We need to get business questions. And then from business question, we map out metrics and KPIs. And then we know the data needed. Okay. So let's try to come up with this thing. But right now we have AI to help us. Right? So let's first, everyone, open your browser and then go to, you can choose whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini. Okay, so let me use both. I have Gemini, so I have Gemini Pro. Okay, you can, I think you have seen the news, right? You can ask for a Pro for 1 year as a student. Gemini, I have Gemini Pro. Okay, ChatGPT, I have ChatGPT Go. I got it from Shopee. Right now, if you pay for Shopee VIP, you get 3 months ChatGPT Go. Okay, so this is what I have. Now you need to prompt, right? How do you get, what do you get? You need to come up with first smart adjective. Okay, let's write the prompt. Okay, I have the prompt. Okay. Okay, so let's say I use the background knowledge from the slide. Okay, I write the prompt. Okay. As our team manage sales for superstore branches nationwide, while overall sales are trending upwards. Okay, furniture sales are showing a loss in the latest quarter. Okay, this is the problem, right? Wrote this on Gemini, so okay, put this in the chat in Zoom. Okay. Okay, so this is the background knowledge that I give it to Gen AI. Now, we need to have role, right? Who are we? We are data analysts, right? So as data analysts, we need to analyze this data to find solutions for Superstore. Okay, I wrote as data analysts, we need to analyze the data to find solutions for the Superstore. Okay. Okay, then we need to order that AI to do what? The first step, we need to come up with project objective, right? So I wrote the first step, we need to define the objective. Okay. Okay. But it's not just any general objective. The objective must be smart. Okay, so we need to tell the AI also. Okay, I will tell this objective must be smart. Okay, the objective. Okay, I wrote this objective must adhere to the SMART principles. S means specific, M measurable, and so on. Okay. Okay. So now let's run and let's see whether uh, ChatGPT and Gemini give us. Okay, both already answered. So, Gemini talk about, okay, we need to get actionable insight. We need what is smart breakdown. We are not looking at sale. We are looking at negative margin or profit loss. Okay, okay. And measurable, we need to identify top tier root cause. Okay, okay. Relevant, critical to maximize company-wide return on investment. Okay, so they propose this one. Let's see whether it's okay. Based on the breakdown, we will conduct a diagnostic analysis of the furniture category latest quarterly data to isolate the primary drivers of negative and deliver this this project objective is okay, but it's not actually the project objective that we want. Why? Because look at the objective. This is like objective of the analysis, not objective of the business outcome ไหมก็คือถ้าคุณดูอันเนี้ยก็คืออันแรกที่เขาให้มาเนี่ยมันเหมือนเป็น objective ของคนทำ data analyst analysis นะแต่มันไม่ใช่ objective ของตัว outcome ของ business นะเราต้องการ business outcome เนาะแต่ไม่ต้องตกใจเนาะลองดูข้างล่างนะ optional a more outcome based โอเคถ้ามันไม่บอกอันเนี้ยเดี๋ยวเราต้องมาใส่พร้อมเพิ่มเนาะว่าเราอยากจะได้ focus more on business outcome โอเค focus more on business outcome. Okay, this looks better. Identify and present data-driven strategy to reduce furniture loss. Okay, by 10% in the next fiscal quarter, completing the initial strategic review by มันให้เดทมาแล้วก็ไปใส่เดทเพิ่มได้นะคะอันเนี้ยดูดีเนาะดูดีขึ้นใช่ไหมก็คือ just like smartive นะคะ specific ไหมก็เริ่ม specific มากขึ้นเนาะ reduce loss นะ by measurable 10% time bound the next fiscal quarter okay but it doesn't tell what strategy no I want to be like more specific to the strategy so can you uh, adjust the outcome based no I mean the outcome based uh, alternative to have specific strategy that we may need to use to achieve reduction of มันบอกให้ reduce ใช่ไหม reduction of furniture loss ให้มัน adjust นิดนึงมันก็ refine ไปของคุณอาจจะไม่เหมือนเนาะ because it's Gen AI right answer are different from answer to answer so you need to prompt to try to come up with what you need to do okay so okay revise มาละ revise reduce furniture loss by this by okay let's this should be more target by implementing targeted optimization strategy focus on tightening discount threshold rationalizing on shipping modes and eliminating negative margin SKU by date okay you can just put on the date like this so it looks better right it come up with specific, specific at what? Measurable, attainable, relevant, and then time bound. Okay, doing good. And also they also suggest the next step, right? Data collection not at that step yet. Okay, let's look at ChatGPT. ChatGPT come up with, okay, what is project objective? Time bound. So within 4 weeks, final one sentence, no? Within 4 weeks, analyze latest quarter, okay, to identify and quantify the key drivers of loss. Okay, it's not what we want is not business outcome yet. Okay, so just like Gemini, let's refine. Please refine the smart objective to focus on achieving end results that are beneficial to the business. Okay, I need business outcome. Okay, I don't need what the data analyst should do. Okay. Business outcome เนาะเริ่มมา profit margin โอเค but it's not measurable again, right? Within 4 weeks, you're supposed to set data to from a loss to a profitable segment with the goal of achieving positive แค่ positive เนาะ Can you come up? Can you come up with numbers to be measurable from the objective, right? อ่ะก็ยังไม่ค่อยตรงใจสักเท่าไหร่เนาะโอเคอันนี้ looks better เนาะ within 4 weeks analyze ตึ๊ดturn from negative profit margin to at least plus 5%โอเค increase หลายอันเลยทำหลายอันเนาะเราอาจจะเลือกมาสักอันหนึ่งนะ you need to maybe use the background knowledge to just choose which one suitable for your business. You just choose one, okay, or you can come up with another one. I'll evaluate at the subsequent quarter after implementation. Okay, so maybe refine the objective. Just choose one measurable objective. Turn profit margin ละกัน and then make it more specific and attainable by having the strategy to be implemented in the project objective sentence ดูซิว่ามันจะมาได้ไหม Okay. Within 4 weeks, analyze to decide recommend targeted pricing for the furniture with the objective of turning analyze to decide recommend targeted ก็อาจจะพอใช้ได้นะ discount control maybe about discount and product mix optional strategy for furniture okay to get the at least 5% in the circuit I think this one is already okay เนาะ smart แล้ว smart okay you can maybe rewrite this into simple student language okay maybe okay so now once we get this smart tip the second step is to from objective we need business questions okay So it's actually already mentioned in ChatGPT, right? Convert it into business question. Yes, yeah, we want to convert it to business questions. Okay. Okay. Convert อันนี้ก็เหมือนกัน convert the objective into business questions. Okay, let's see ChatGPT. What furniture loss coming from? Which category product? Which region? How is discount impact? Okay, this can be used. You can choose which one you think is the direction of the business. Okay, you can choose from this, right? Then let's say I want to, I decide to, I decide to ask question in the direction of um, discounting impact. Discounting or impact. The second one. Please map the business question to metrics, metrics and KPIs. Also, okay, one stretch to data needed. Also, define data requirements per question. Not per question. Also, data requirements for the whole questions and come up with data needed. Okay. Let's see, Gemini come up with macro question. What specific discount percentage? Okay, that's a financial. The macro, okay, break even point. What is the average discount? Okay, these are very useful question. Okay, so there are macro question. Okay, micro question. Okay, okay. So now let's map the questions to metrics and KPIs. And then from that, come up with, just like ChatGPT, come up with data needed. Okay. Maybe like maybe data schema. Maybe data set schema. Okay. โอเค อันนี้ได้มาละ business question KPI metric data requirement business question this KPI average discount profit margin metrics นู่นนี่data require เนาะโอเค this มันก็ไล่มาให้เนาะเห็นไหมโอเค so data requirement full set schema we have need fact table sales transaction need this right we need summary table okay Okay, very good. Right? It can also generate syntactic data set for you, matching this schema. Okay, this one, okay, good. Business question, key metrics that we want. Okay, KPIs, profit ratio, profit by sales, discount break-even point. Yeah, very good. Shipping cost, shipping mode. Okay, so map to schema. Okay, we need order date, order ship mode, region. Okay, category, subcategory, product name. We need sales, quantity, discount, profit, shipping cost. Okay, to calculate these things. Okay, very good. Right, very good. This is an example of what we need. Okay, so let's get back to our slide. So once you get that, you can now fill in the first four of the data project canvas. So the first one is the problem statement, the background. The second one is the objective. So you choose the smart objective and write down here. The third one is business question, or actually you can come up with hypothesis. Hypothesis is close-ended question. Usually the question is open-ended, just like how much the discount for the category furniture, right? This is the open question. But if you already know something, right, you may come up with, is the furniture discount more than 20%? Right? This is the hypothesis. So the difference between hypothesis and question is whether hypothesis is something that already answered, but that answer may be right or may be wrong. Okay. Then you need key metrics and attributes. Okay. So we already have 4 of them. So let's say I try to choose one, okay, from the Gen AI, and then I wrote things on here. So you can choose to do it in Thai or English, it's fine, right? And okay, I come up with this smarty. I come up with this question, and then when I map to key metrics, I got profit margin, I got net profit, discount rate, total sale, and then the data that I need are products, transaction data with order date, ship date, order products, things like this. These are examples of what I have for this problem of Superstore. Right? So once I get this, I can get or acquire the data. So this is the example of the Superstore data set. Right? So this is example that we do here in the lecture. So every time we have the lab, actually almost every time, okay, you need to submit. Okay, so that's why I have this. Okay, lab 1, case study objectives. Okay, so everyone submit the page capture from the Gen AI results. So for example, if I use ChatGPT, I just do Control P, right? And then we just save that and then submit this to Moodle. Okay, or if you use Gemini, right? Can just do Gemini, don't save for you. Right? How do I save? Okay, maybe just capture. I capture. We can just capture print screen, right? Something like this, okay? That you have done with me in the lecture. Okay, and then submit that to the Moodle Lab 1 here. Okay, so usually I will have 1 week for you. Okay, but something you can just do right away if you follow my lecture properly, right? I'll give you until next week, the day before the class, which is Monday, 12th January, before midnight. Okay, this is every time when you submit the lab. Okay, 1 week, you have 1 week. So if you are not available on Tuesday, you can follow the video and then submit it later on. Okay, this is the lab. So the lab is individual work. So everyone have to submit their own. Okay. For the homework, it usually group, but everyone need to submit, although it's a group work. Okay. So you need to submit homework. Okay, what is the homework? So usually it's the progress for your project. So what's your project? Okay, I come up with the problem for you. This year problem talks about how to detect scam-induced transactions to move account ก็คืออยากจะดูว่า if you are banking industry in the bank sector, you may be an analyst in the Thai banking sector. You want to design analytic solution for your bank to help the bank detect scam transactions as early as possible so that maybe intervention can be made before the financial loss or to protect customers. So how can you do that using data? because you know that online scam have increased rapidly, right? And many victims are manipulated. It's not the same as fraud before, right? Because these include transferring voluntarily ก็คือการ transfer money กรณีเนี้ยมันเป็นการ transfer ตามใจเขาเองคือเขาเป็นคนอยาก transfer เองถูกไหม voluntarily ก็คือคนที่ transfer เนี่ยเขา initiate เองไปให้กับบัญชีที่เรียกว่า มู account ในที่นี้ก็คือบัญชีม้านะคะงั้น unlike traditional fraud these transactions are initiated by legitimate customers making detection more challenging ก็คือมันไม่เหมือน fraud ที่มาจากโจรถูกไหมแต่อันเนี้ยคือมาจากคนปกติทั่วๆไปเลยเป็นคนโอนเข้าไปเองนะคะ so you need to come up with first right business problem feel free to use AI but our project will focus on analytics not machine learning so form a group of no more than 3 people no แต่ไม่แนะนำ individual work คือครูไม่อยากเห็นทำคนเดียวเนาะก็คือเพราะว่าอะไรเพราะว่างาน Data Analytics เนี่ยมันเป็นงานที่แบบมันควรจะต้องเบรนสตอร์มกันไม่งั้นมันจะแบบมาดุยคิดอยู่คนเดียวนะไม่ช่วยกันคิดเนี่ยมันจะไม่ได้อะไรเนาะเพราะฉะนั้นควรทำเป็นกลุ่มนะ3 คนนะคะหรือถ้าไม่ได้จริงๆก็2 คนนะแต่อยากให้ได้3 คนมากกว่าเนาะ think about the problems and then translate this business problem into smart objectives. From smart objective, you get to translate to business questions, KPIs, and metrics, and then define the data need. My requirement is that your data should have at least 3 tables. It will be used later on. Okay, so feel free to use AI, but be realistic to the context of Thailand. Okay, everyone have the same problem, but not everyone have the same objectives, right? So each group have their own business objective. Each group have their own business questions. Each group have their own key metrics and KPIs and also data needed. Later on, I will let you use Gen AI to generate data from the schema of the data that you come up with. You can do right now, but you can also do later. นะคะ but at the very last you will do anyway นะคะก็คืองานนี้ใช้ Gen AI สร้างได้ไม่มีปัญหานะคะแต่ว่าอย่าไปเชื่อมัน100%เนาะมันอาจจะไม่ถูกก็ได้นะคะเพราะฉะนั้น and research my suggestion is go and then try to research about scam induced transaction what are the characteristics of these scam induced transaction what happened what should be able to detect whether it's scam or not a scam what you need to know to be able to detect this come up with the objectives the questions the KPIs and the metrics and later on you can get the data from what you do for the homework okay so any question for the group project and homework so for the homework you have 2 weeks so that means you have until Monday 19 January to submit okay just the deliverable is the project canvas draft you can find the file here right just fill in the first 4 which is this 4 okay so and then save it as PDF or whatever and then submit to Moodle this is what I want for the first homework right okay any question on this Okay, if no question, let's have a break for 10 minutes. Right now it's 15:01, so 10 minutes, 15:12 then. Okay, and let's come up with the pause. Okay. Now, the goal of the course, okay, to provide knowledge from the process and principles of data analytics into using the data mining and data visualization, and also it helps students to apply the data analytics tools to solve business problem. These are the description of the course. Okay, so we will first 6 lectures. Okay, from today, actually from next week. Where's my pen? Okay. Next week until the 6th week, we will use Excel. Okay. So before the next course, everyone needs to install Microsoft Excel 365 in your own computer. So if you do not know how to, I have the manual here. Okay, you go and then you cannot use the web version because we need to use Power Query. Okay, so you need to install the desktop version properly. You cannot use iPad to learn in this course. You need to use computer or laptop. Okay, so take time to install that if you do not have one. Okay, after 6th class, we will use Tableau. I will have the Tableau key for you guys. Okay, this and this thing we will use Tableau. Okay. Okay, I will have the key for that later on. We will also have the project checkpoint after the midterm. So the midterm is this week in between, but we don't have midterm in our course. We only have final exam. Okay, we only have final exam. Once we talk about all the class things, we will have case studies and final project presentation. So actually, you may already know that there are 2 courses run together, right? DE course and then CS course. So actually the case study is the project presentation for the CS. So for you as DE, you come to CS and then you are like a stakeholders. So CS are data analysts, right? They present their project on 21st of April after Songkran. Then you are a business stakeholder, so your responsibility is to ask question to the data analysts what they have. So their group project will be different problem from you. The problem will be about hotel owners, so it's totally different. Okay. And so your work is to listen to them and think about if you are the owner of the hotel, what would you come up with the question to ask them? Okay. So this is the 21st of April. Then on the 28th of April, it's your turn. You will present the project about scam-induced transaction detection, and then the CS will try to come and then you will be your banking sector stakeholder. Right? They will listen to your presentation and then they need to come up with some question and then you need to answer them. Okay, so we have 2 weeks, right? Run CS and DE, right? So that means your project, okay, final project, including the checkpoint, the case studies, and the presentation, and then you need to also do the article on GitHub, will be 35% of the whole grade. Okay, your quiz and the lab or participation will be individual work. Each will take 15%. Your homework will be group work, but everyone needs to submit. It will be 15%. Okay, and then for the final exam, we will have another 20%. Right? So the final exam, we haven't decided which date yet, but it has to be on site. Okay, final exam will be on site only, no online. Final exam on site only. Usually, final exam will have things about usually theories, okay, but maybe some practical things. Okay, so you can see that most of the course grades come from things that you can do on your own, right? Therefore, it's possible since I grade by criteria ก็คือตัดเกณฑ์อีกกลุ่ม that means it's possible that if you want to get an A you may need to do like 85% or 90%, something like that. I cannot guarantee that if you have 80% you get an A, right? Because most of the grades are like you can do anywhere anytime, right? So the grade will be both up. Okay คือเกรดมันจะบวมเนาะคะแนนมันจะค่อนข้างบวมดังนั้นโอกาสที่เกรด A อาจจะ85 88 90ก็เป็นไปได้เช่นเดียวกันนะคะ Any questions on this? Okay, if there's no question, we need some time to talk about the technical foundation before we go on to the next lecture and next class. Okay, so getting to know your data. You know that the process now, getting to know your data involves once you know what data you need to know and how to acquire the data and then prepare the data, right? So you need to select and gather the data. If you need to gather yourself, you need to identify your data, to describe the data, what source it's come from, what are the data sets come from, what are the file types of the data set, did you connect via file or just connect via SQL and query the database. You then need to have the data dictionary of your data. We'll do it later on. Then once you get the data, you need to explore the data. You need to examine the data. You may do exploratory data analysis just like in data science. At this time, you need to ask a lot of questions during your EDA time. During your EDA time, you may find that the quality of data is not at par. So you need to do some data cleansing or data transforming. And that is the fourth topics after that. Okay. So today we'll do some easy thing first, which is talk about the definitions. Okay. So the data sets that we talk about in this class are focused on record data only. Okay. We will not talk about graph data. We will not talk about order data, synthetic data, sequential data. We will not talk about that. We will talk only about record data. So record data are data with row and column, right? And column are set of attributes which are fixed. Okay, these are record data. So one form of the record data is called data matrix. So in the calculative, usually we have fixed sets of numeric attribute, but it can be other type of attribute also, that we can map these data as points in the multi-dimensional space. Since you already learned data science before, you know that you can map your row as vector in the dimensional space like this, right? So dimension will represent your attribute. So for example, in this case, you have m by n matrix, m rows and n columns. So one column for one attribute and one attribute for one dimension in the multidimensional space. Okay. Another form of record data is document data. So document data means one row is one document and one term is one column or one attribute. So you have one row as what is called is term vector in the vector space. So each term is a component of the vector, and the number in the vector contains the number of the time that term occurs in the document. For example, in document 1, the term team appears 3 times. The term coach appears none. The term play appears 5 times in the document 1. This is what this has been encoded. Okay. Another form of record data is transaction data. This is a special type data. In each transaction, you have transaction ID. And then, for example, in the grocery store, when you go to the grocery and then you buy something, each time you go to grocery, you buy things in the basket, right? And once customer check out from that basket, you will get this information in your transaction. That is the transaction ID, the items that they purchase. For example, this customer check out once and then they buy bread, Coke, and milk. So this transaction that were purchased once at that time. Okay, so this can be represented as record, right? Okay, we will use this in the MBA application market basket analysis later on in the course. So data object represent an entity, and a lot of data objects comprise into data sets. So example are like sales database. We have customers, we have store item, we have sales, right? Medical database, we have patients, we have treatments. University database, we have students, we have course, we have lectures, we have professors. Other nicknames for data object may be called samples, instance, data points, tuples, and data objects are described by attributes. So the database rows are considered as data objects, and the columns are considered as attributes. Okay, so attributes can be called dimensions, or in data science we call features, or it can be called variables in statistics, right? So it's just a field, data field. Attribute is a data field that represent the characteristic of the data object, right? The ID of customer, the name of the customer, the sales quantity, for example. We can categorize attributes in many ways. One way we categorize into categorical data type or attribute type and numerical attribute type. So categorical is qualitative and numerical is quantitative. So let's get to see each of these. Categorical attribute types or qualitative data, qualitative from quality, right? Can be categorized, subcategorized to 2 subcategories, which is nominal and ordinal. So nominal, norm comes from name. Okay, norm comes from name. That means it's the category of name of the things. For example, colors, red, white, right? Blue, or maybe pork, meat, things like this. So we cannot say, okay, pork is better than meat, or red is better than white. No, nothing. No order between that. It's just categories, right? So marital status, single or married, occupation, ID numbers, or zip codes, these are nominals. Special case of nominal is when you have 2 states that can be encoded as 0 or 1. This is binary. So binary is nominal attribute with just 2 states. For binary, you can also categorize into symmetric binary or asymmetric binaries. Symmetric mean the outcome of the binary 0 and 1 are equally important. For example, if you encode gender as 0 and 1, right? Female and male, it's no one is better than anyone, right? So it's symmetric. But some applications have asymmetric binary. The outcomes are not equally important. For example, for medical tests like HIV test, usually the doctor will try to focus on the person who have positive HIV test. That's why positive is more important than negative. Therefore, when you assign one, you usually assign one to the most important outcome, which is HIV positive in this case, right? Ordinal all มาจากคำ form order, right? So that means the values have a meaningful order or the ranking, but the magnitude are not known. For example, the size of the shirt, small, medium, large. You know that small is smaller than medium, medium is smaller than large, like this, right? Or army rankings, right? พันตำรวจโทพันตำรวจตรีอย่างนี้เนาะก็คือแต่ไม่ได้บอกว่าพันตำรวจโทใหญ่เป็น2 เท่าของพันตำรวจตรีอย่างนี้ไม่ใช่ you cannot also say the shirts the medium shirts are twice bigger than the small shirt. No, you cannot say something like that. It depends, right? It depends. So that is ordinal. You can rank, but it's still no values or the numbers that you can use it to categorize and then come up with something that can be calculated between the order of the things. For numeric or quantitative, of course, it can encode using integer or real value. Numeric attributes can be subcategorized into 2 subcategories. The first one is called interval. Interval means we can measure on the scale of equal sized units. But there are no true 0 point for interval attribute types. So, for example, temperature in Celsius or Fahrenheit. These are interval. Why? Because when you say 0 Fahrenheit or 0 Celsius, did you mean that there's no temperature? No, right? It has the temperature, but what you know is that 0 is colder than 10. 0 is colder than 30. This is what you know. It doesn't mean that 0 temperature means no temperature. So there's no true 0 point. Or calendar dates. You don't have date 0, right? You have 1, 2, 3. But between the date, it's difference by 1 day, right? 1 and 2. Today is 6, right? Tomorrow is 7. The difference between today and tomorrow is 1 day. Okay. So it has equal size. For ratio, this has 0 point. For example, 0 length, that means there's no length. 0 count, no count. For example, if you measure the number of people who go to the hospital today, if you say 0 person, that means no one goes, right? So the real 0. Okay. And for ratio, numeric attribute, we can talk about the order of the magnitude, right? This is 10 times longer than this one. For example, if you have the 2 locations of the house, I know that, okay, this house is 100 meters from Sinagarin Road. This house is 200 meters from Sinagarin Road. I know that the first house is closer than the second house twice. Twice closer than the second house. So ratio has the real order of magnitude. For example, temperature in Kelvin, because temperature in Kelvin is measured by power. So if you say 10K, 10K is twice higher than 5K in the case of Kelvin power. Or if you say you have $1 million and your friends has 500,000 dollar, you know that you have twice as as much money as your friend, right? So why do you need to know this? Because it dictates what are crucial for analysis, which is the properties of the attribute values, right? So we need to know whether we can distinct between the numbers, for example, equals or not equals, or distinct between the category. Is red equals to white? No, it's not equal, right? Whether it can be order larger than or smaller than, whether it can be difference plus or minus, whether it can be ratios, which means you can multiply or you can uh, uh, not multiply, divide, right? So for nominal attribute, of course, you can find the distinctness, right? Pork is different from meat, right? Ordinal, you can also order. You know that small is smaller than large, right? Interval, you can also distinctness, have order and also difference. You can plus, right? You can add the date. Add 2 days, it will be 8, right? From today, right? For ratio, you can do all 4 properties. You can divide, you can multiply. Okay, so I have this from another website. They try to come up with the summaries of all the 4 type of attributes, and then what we can do with that. Okay, so you can see that you can only rank these 3, right? These 2 have equal space, and then through 0 only ratio. You can add and subtract the numeric attribute, but you can only multiply and divide the ratio one. Mode, you can find mode for all the attributes, but for the attributes that have order can do median. So you cannot find median for nominal. You can find arithmetic mean for the interval ratio, but only geometric mean you can find in the ratio, because in geometric means you need to calculate some division or some square root, thing like that. Another way to categorize attributes are to categorize by how does it look, how does it use numbers to encode it. So we can use discrete or continuous. So if you use discrete, I mean you can represent that attribute as integer variables. If you are a continuous attribute, you can actually use real numbers to try to encode these numbers. So for discrete, you have finite or countably infinite sets of values like zip code, profession, or the set of birds, right? And for binary, of course, it's a special case of discrete attribute. For continuous, practically any real values can be measured and represented using finite number of digits. You have learned about computer architecture with me before, right? You know that when you want to represent numbers in computer, it actually has the fixed set of the number of digits that it can represent. Okay, so we talk about this here. Continuous attribute is not infinite. It's finite, but finite at the number of digits that it can be represented in the computer. Okay, so in the computer, continuous attributes are usually represented as floating point values. So why you need to know this? Because the type relation that you choose should be meaningful for that type of data. You know that, okay, if it's ratio, you can do this. If it's just nominal, you cannot find the mean, something like this, right? So the data type you see when you collect the data, you only see numbers, you only see strings, right? But it only what you see is doesn't capture all the properties or may not suggest the property that are not present in there. So you need to try to take the what you see and try to come up with the insight of what the attribute type it is. Because the analysis that we do later on will depend more or less on these properties of data. Also, you have learned about statistics before. You know that statistical analysis also depend on the distribution of data and also on the type of data also. So at the end, what is meaningful is not just the data type, not just what it looks like, but also the specificity to the domain. You need to know the domain because even though it's the same attributes, the same attribute types, but with different domains, you may need to apply different operation on that. Okay. So let's see some example of attributes like gender, male, female, transgender, right? This is a discrete, right? It's a qualitative and nominal. For social economic status like rich, poor, right? You can order. Therefore, it's an ordinal and it's a qualitative. You can represent using a discrete number, right? The Likert scale, disagree, agree, neutral, like this, you have order. So you can view it as ordinal, as qualitative. But if your Likert scale can come with numbers, maybe strongly disagree is 1, disagree is 2, right? Neutral is 3, like this. You can view the Likert scale as interval and quantitative. So in the case of Likert scale, it depends. You can look at its view or perceive its two different things. But it's of course it's a discrete. Calendar date, we also talked that before, it's an interval, it's a discrete. Number of patients, of course, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? It's a discrete number. Quantitative and ratio, it can be 0, right? Sales can be 0, it's continuous. You can have today you sales 215, right? 215.70 something, right? You have VAT, right? The IQ can be discrete, cannot be continuous, right? 120, IQ 180 or 200, but it doesn't have 0 IQ, so it's an interval quantitative data. Okay, so this is what we cover for today. For those who want to read ahead, we have the reference over here. Okay. So this concludes lecture 1 for today. Any question for today? So you need to have a group form and then do homework for 1. Okay? So before seeing you next week, if you don't have any question, I have quiz for you today. Let me open the quiz. So we have 10 minutes to do. Right now it's 3. And then we will close at 53. Okay. Okay, I have shown you the quiz here. Quiz 1, okay. So enroll in Moodle first. The code for Moodle is DE 2026. Right? People come already. Okay, don't forget to enroll in Live Chat. Enroll in Moodle. Of course, you need to do quiz today. Submit the lab. Okay, just 2. Okay. Submit the lab that we do the Gen AI for the business objectives today. Homework 2 weeks later on.